I woke up in the living room, sprawled across the sofa. It wasn't the first time it had happened, and certainly wouldn't be the last. The previous night's alcohol had turned against me, becoming a headache so bad I thought it might punch right through my skull. I stumbled to the kitchen to get a drink of water. What I really needed was another drink of whiskey. That would have cured the headache. It always does. Feeling nauseous, I headed upstairs and took my regular position in front of the bowl. I don't know how long I waited there for, but all that came up were the dry heaves. My stomach rumbled, but I wasn't sure if I could keep any food down. I headed to the kitchen, but the contents of the fridge did little to inspire me. Fresh air, I thought. Maybe that will clear my head. Clear my head whilst I walk to the market to buy some more liquor. On the way, I came across 2 cars entwined on the road. There was broken glass and crumpled metal, but no drivers. Perplexed, I moved on. In Stan's Market was a bottle with my name on it, and I didn't want to waste time getting there. I had the thought of calling in at Dr. Sanders. Jeff would have something a little stronger than aspirin to kick the headache into submission, and when they mixed with the whiskey I was about to consume, well, that would be a real party. Jenny wasn't at reception, but then she spent more time taking smoke breaks than actually doing her job, so I wasn't surprised. I knocked, then let myself into the treatment room where I was sure I'd find Jeff. No such luck, though. Perhaps he was in his office. I could hear a banging. It sounded like Jeff was moving a filing cabinet or something. I went to check, possibly help. It could be a good exchange for some pills, but I didn't find him. I found something far more terrifying. Although initially I had no idea of the dangerous world in which I was now living. It was Mark Stripnexy. Only it wasn't. Something was wrong. I asked if he was alright, but he clearly wasn't. The blood on his face and clothes told me that. I knew I'd be helping him home. He was in no condition to get there himself. But that's when he lunged at me, and goddamn if he didn't try to bite me. Luckily, I got away with a scratch, but I was pissed to say the least. Mark, what you doing, buddy? Calm down, man, calm down. I could feel blood running down my arm from the laceration he had dealt me. I needed to get it bandaged and quick. I could have gone home. I was pretty sure I had bandages in the bathroom cupboard, but with the medical center right there, I headed inside to get something to stem the flow. I'd have to try and deal with Mark afterwards. There was the smash of a window breaking. If I knew then what I knew now, I would have put Mark down right away. No questions asked, but they say hindsight is 20/20, and they're right about that. Instead, I hid in the supply closet. As I waited for what would happen next, I perused the shelves. My arm was screaming, but luckily I found some painkillers. He scratched me. Why would he scratch me? He must have had a skinful last night. Hell, he must have kept on drinking all morning. Whatever his problem was, he was my problem now. I grabbed a scalpel, not much of a weapon, but maybe enough to scare him off. I could hear him on the other side of the door, crashing around. I opened it and crept out. Mark was busy at the window trying to break free, it seemed. Unfortunately, my escape was blocked by Jenny, back from her smoke break and seemingly as crazy as Mark. I ran back to the cupboard for safety, or at least as safe as anyone could feel behind a thin wooden door from 2 people who had gone, in layman's terms, completely nuts. It didn't take a master's degree in woodwork to know that the door wouldn't hold forever. I psyched myself up and then ran, pushing Jenny down and leaving her and Mark in the dust. Outside, Sally Gebney was stood on the corner. I ran to warn her, protect her in case. Oh, who am I kidding? If I can't tell the truth now, then when can I? I ran hoping she could protect me. Sal's protecting days were over, however. She had turned into what I don't know, but she wasn't Sally Gebney anymore. I ran home as fast as I could, my arm on fire. There was one good thing about the pain clawing at my arm, I considered. It had taken my mind off my headache. Funny the things you think of. Inside, I turned on the news, hoping Herb Magetti or Jenny Langley from WBLN could shed some light on what was happening. But the station was dead, nothing but static. I sat in desperation, changing my bandage when I noticed the blood seeping through it. Underneath, the wound looked nasty, deep and dark, and it hurt. It hurt so much. I drank some water and forced myself to eat. I hadn't had food since... what even was the time? An idea came to me. Mr. Rawlings and his daughter Mia. He lived in the neighborhood 50 years and always seemed to know what was going on in the town. And if he didn't, Mia would. She had the uncanny gift of knowing what was going on in both people's public and private lives. Maybe they could shed some light on Mark, Jenny, and Sal, and God knows who else. Also, they would have alcohol. I really needed a drink. At first, I thought he was okay. That whatever was causing people to shuffle and lose their minds hadn't affected Mr. Rawlings. You see, he always shuffled. Something to do with his back. A slipped disc he'd never got seen to, Mia said. Then I saw his face. It was the face of a dead man. I ran. Whatever had happened to him, it had given him far more energy than he'd ever had before. He chased me around the garden, barely out of breath. I would later learn that he had no breath to lose. None of them did. Inside the house, I called for Mia. Upstairs, I could hear the thumping of a human body against a door. After my time in the medical center storeroom, it was a sound I easily recognized. Upstairs, the thumping of the door echoed the thumping in my head. I asked softly, "Mia?" There wasn't a reply, just more thumps. I didn't open the door. I didn't want to see what she had become. I wanted to leave. Hell, what I really wanted was a drink. My mind was full of getting back home where I could make believe some semblance of normality. That's why he took me by surprise. Luckily, my reactions were faster than when Mark had taken a piece of me with his fingernails. I dodged around him and headed for the only safe place I could see. The shed. Mr. Rawlings shuffled towards me. Whatever he and the others had become, they seemed to move at a snail's pace, right up until the moment they thought they could grab you. Do they even think? It seemed like they were running on some kind of instinct. My scalpel wasn't going to cut it as a weapon, no pun intended. I searched the shelves and cupboards of what Mr. Rawlings had jokingly called his home from home. I was in luck. Thank you, Mr. Rawlings. I loaded up on the best items to hit with and got ready to run. Whilst I was deciding which hammer was best, Sally Gebney had come to join the party, presumably attracted by Mr. Rawlings' attempts to get into the shed. I should have run home. Even now I wish I'd run home, but instead I stood my ground. I wasn't ready to believe. That was the thing. Part of me still thought I could get through to Mr. Rawlings, the sweet old man from next door. I was wrong, and staying on that lawn saw me take my first of what was very many lives, if you can call what they were living. Dazed and confused, I ran for home, tears in my eyes, my arms stinging, my head banging. I was through with today, and if I couldn't drink it away, I would hide and sleep. But first I needed to be clean. I couldn't stand feeling the blood of Mr. Rawlings and Sal on my skin. I washed right there in the kitchen sink. Next, I needed a fresh bandage and clothes. Funny to think now how accustomed I am to being covered in blood. Back then, I couldn't stand it. I guess you take what life throws at you. There was still no TV signal, so I went upstairs to change. The painkillers I'd taken only seemed to do the trick if I took double the recommended dose. Still, not my first time self-medicating. You do what you need to do. I shut the door to keep out the horrors of the world, hoping that when I opened it in the morning, they would have all been a dream. It all seemed pretty goddamn real right now, but maybe, just maybe, I'd wake up hungover on the sofa and none of it will have happened. Please don't let it be real. Please.